All right, welcome back. We are with Ethan Crelinsten today. We have the JJM podcast. My name's Greg Melita, owner of Hampton's Jiu Jitsu, black belt 2nd degree.
And I'm Brian DeLuca, black belt and author of Jiu Jitsu for Small People and other weird shit I think about.
Well, we got the perfect podcast there, Brian. We're all small people, I believe. So, guys, Ethan on board today. Well, I'm glad to have him on. He came out to Hampton's Jiu Jitsu in 2020. It was just awesome to have him out. Did a seminar, met the group of guys we have out there, and it was just awesome to learn from him all the techniques. So, Ethan, man, what is going on, my friend? You are adjusting to North American life. Tell us about that. What's the difference in Puerto Rico versus now coming back to the good old U.S. here?
Man, well, right now I'm in Montreal, up in Canada, so it's a little bit more communistic than the land of the free. But all the places I've been, it's like the level of freedom in Puerto Rico is unmatched, I'd say, in terms of just liberty and general freedom to do whatever you want, run red lights, walk anywhere, drive everywhere. There's horses in the streets. It's crazy. It's definitely like the Wild West. But in terms of like getting stuff done, it's maybe not the best place, getting car registered, getting driver's license, health insurance, whatever it may be, is not the easiest place. Then you get Austin. It's like a healthy medium, best of both worlds. Really can't wait to get back up there. And then you get up to Montreal, where it's like 1984 passport vaccines. And it's pretty insane up here. But, it's cool. It's cool to be back. It's cool to experience all those different places. And
oh, definitely. I didn't know it was like the Wild West like that. Sounds like the favelas down there. Holy shit.
No, I'm exaggerating. It's not that bad. But it's a little crazy to live long term for sure.
Yeah.
So now the Puerto Ricans are good at it, but it's a little tough to get adjusted.
Yeah. So let's come up.
And you went from one extreme to the other too, like Puerto Rico to Canada, because Canada has some pretty strict regulations, right?
Very strict.
Specifically, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's pretty crazy up here. Yeah, they're implementing vaccine passports, and they're pretty strict about it. I don't think you can get into any restaurant or really even like a store, like a pharmacy or anything, without like scanning your vaccine thing. So it's pretty crazy up here.
Okay. And you can you go into a little bit now how the B team, how did that all come about? I know it's like, new information. Maybe you can't share everything, how that, DDS down there and you guys decided to, split up and things like that. But what's the most you can share with us? How'd that come about?
So when the split happened, we all sort of decided on going our separate ways. The decision to continue with us four was sort of made, amongst ourselves. Can't get into that too much, obviously, it's for them to release that information. But Austin was a great place, a great spot to open up. It's Flow headquarters. So we figured the four of us could make it work. And four of us combined would be a pretty big draw. Nicky Rod, Nicky Ryan, Craig Jones, guys like everyone wants to train with these guys. So it's cool to be on their team. It's cool to be a part of that gym. And I'm just lucky and happy that it worked out the way it did, and that we sort of found a new headquarters for the four of us. And man, I mean, it's still super new. We're gonna make it a little less open to the complete public than normal gyms, I'd say, but still it's gonna be great to have that environment and continue going with those guys.
Nice. Yeah. Who's doing all your who's doing that all those videos online? I forget the name of it, YouTube channel.
Count Films.
Yeah. So now the
logo looks like Count Films, but it's Count Films, not Count Films. Every time I see it, I think that, but yeah, people get used to that.
Everyone's converging on Austin, it seems like.
Yeah, I feel like everybody's in Texas now, Texas and Florida for jiu-jitsu. Is Count Films there specifically just for your gym, or they just happen to be there every day? Or
no, I think I'm not sure how he got involved with the BTeam, but I think Craig knew him from something else, and they reached out to each other somehow. And the guy is a really hard worker. The guy behind it, he'll be in filming one day, the entire session, then stay up to 4 a.m. to edit it together and post a video on YouTube, and then be back in the next day for training to film and get more footage for the next day. the guy's a monster. He's just unstoppable, man, with the content he puts
Videos
out.
are awesome, man. I mean, the videos are highly entertaining.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's fun seeing Craig beat up people and then have them despise him immediately after.
That's pretty much it. I mean, and that's all you really need, man. That's crazy. That spot that you guys have, how did that come about? Did you like search for that? It's huge.
It was the old Gracie Humaida, I think. And we were looking at it and a few things sort of fell into place, and we just made the decision quick to get to Austin because that place was already sort of built out. And it was just very convenient and very central. It's in a good spot in Austin. There's like no traffic in that area. It's close to a bunch of great food spots. Not crazy expensive for us to get places to live out there. So we just jumped on it.
Damn, no, that's awesome. And what's the class like? I think you guys are gonna have. I think I saw one thing where like you're gonna have applications for the B team. Is that just gonna be the pro team?
Yeah, it's not going to be like a pure professional team. It's going to be, I'd say, there's definitely going to be the guys who compete, like the four of us, and then a subgroup of other guys that want to jump in and compete and rep our team. Now you represent the B team, but it's mainly, I'd say, to get like a room full of good training partners, not just a room full of guys that sort of come by. I think there will still be a massive window for people to come in who are just visiting. Like we're not going to just shut the doors to those guys, but that'll be like a different structured training regime than the one we're going to be going through. Like if you look at wrestling facilities, like the pro guys have a pro team, like a set of pro people. There's a lot of guys, but they're all like, they understand that that's the general mindset. There's going to be a professional training class for people who are doing this for a living. And then the mats may be used later on for like, I don't know, the high school guys or the less professional guys who aren't doing it as intense as the professionals. So it's a good structure in that sense. It'll help us sort of focus more on training during the times we need to train and help us focus more on teaching in the times that we are going to teach and bring other guys up to speed.
Yeah, that was the next question I had too, because you guys, I mean, if you guys are focusing on the professional aspect of competing, we all know that it's two different worlds, teaching, for general population in jiu-jitsu versus the competition. Now, all you guys are going to have your hands in teaching, or? Yeah,
so we're gonna break it up into how many classes we're going to teach like per week. I'd say the classes that are going to be open to the general public, I think, are going to be taught. Well, to be honest, it's not completely set yet. I think we're still sort of working on the schedule and the weekly,
right,
like block schedule. But yeah, we're gonna be teaching classes individually, but pretty much we're all gonna be there for every class. Like it's still training for us, nonetheless. Like we still need to all be there.
Right. So to Greg's point, are you guys structuring the classes or planning to structure the classes differently with the way you're teaching versus, you're going to have some real true high level professionals competing also?
Yeah. So we're going to try and run the classes for the more beginner guys like a standard jiu-jitsu class, and the more professional classes a little bit more like a more positional live situation style, like a little more intensive, more wrestling, scrimmage wrestling style. Yeah,
man, that's like really unique in the jiu-jitsu world. I mean, where do you see, this group of guys? Like, I mean, from what I've seen, you really get high level teams and you have like the main coach and all the athletes, they're just training because it's them. They're worried about them and their performance on the mat in competition. But I mean, you guys are setting up to have, just you four alone with the status in professional jiu-jitsu, on top of that, you guys are going to be teaching, apparently in these classes too. That's really unique. You haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, we're going to be very, very involved in the entire process. So like the four of us are going to be training and teaching. We're going to sort of, the way we've been doing it so far is still very like unstructured in the sense of like, we're not like officially doing it this way, but we've been sort of, the four of us have never been there at the same time yet. Like we're all injured and messed up. So we're like, I'm up in Canada, Nikki's still in Florida. Nicky Rod hurt his bicep. Craig's hands are messed up. So like, we're all fucked up right now. So how we've been trying to run it is like ideally the 4 of us are there, and then we'll have like a theme for one class or a theme for even the week. And then we'll each give our take when we feel like we have something to offer for that specific technique. So if there's like something we're working on, let's say a leg entry from guard, then Craig's going to show his take on this. And then Isaac or me or Nicky Rod will show our take on it. Sometimes none of us will. Sometimes it'll be just one guy. Sometimes it'll be 2 guys, whoever has something to add or a question or something like that. So it's going to be more like troubleshooting. And then, you break off and you go drill and you come back, you do it again. And we all shoot we all give our take on our input, and then a few techniques in, we start training, and that's that.
Now the last few count film videos, has that just been open mats?
Yeah, there was a big open mat last Sunday, or Monday, like Labor Day open mat. So that was the last open mat I think they did, and I think he's trying to edit the films together. It looks like, at least, to be more focused on the live rolling, because I think that's what many people like seeing, like the live training and what we do, what we can do to each other, what we can't, what we counter, and stuff like that, and how we train with the lower level guys, so guys could see like at least for me, that's what I like seeing. Like when Craig trains with a guy who he's a lot better than, like, it's interesting to see what he can easily do and what he's working on and his escapes and his counters. Like, you see more happen in a role like that when you see his discrepancy in skill.
Right. I think one of the interesting things you guys are doing too is, with all of you showing your own take on things, that actually opens it up, because everyone has slightly different body shapes, different strength levels, different whatever. So having 4 different people showing their take on the same technique is actually great, because we've all trained with people, maybe they're a lot taller than you or shorter than you or bigger, and
bigger, smaller,
they're showing
faster,
you something.
Slower. Yeah, there's different body types and there's different takes, and the 4 of us have pretty unique body. We're not like copies of each other, so it's interesting to see like Craig's way to take the back, my way to take the back, Nicky Rod's way to counter if the guy escapes the back or whatever it may be. So,
man, I think what you just said is a whole segment. That's exactly what I was just going to say, is like, everybody has their own take. You have to have a certain amount of humbleness to even say that. Like, to even admit that. I mean, me, Brian, on this show, I'm all about trying to, make jiu-jitsu better and see what the academies are doing out there. And what I've known in jiu-jitsu coming up, it just wasn't that way, man. Oh no, it's my take and this is the only take. I mean, like, this is huge. What you're saying, you 4 guys, your status level in jiu-jitsu, but each one of you guys are going to have your own take on one entry. That's the way it should be.
Sure. Yeah. It's like, my arms are only this long or my legs are only this long. That's not going to, it just physically doesn't work sometimes. It's sometimes it's modification.
So there might be a guy out there who's way more flexible than some of us, and something works for him that might not work for us, but it still works if you're flexible enough to do it. So it's interesting to see, everyone's going to be able to do things differently. They're going to be doing things faster, more efficiently, or less efficiently.
I mean, there was one thing we wanted to bring up. Brian and I were kind of concerned with DDS down in Puerto Rico there, because it seemed like Ethan and Craig, you guys were like showering each other and like, on the floor. What is going on? You guys just have this like tight bond. Is that what it is?
Man, it's just bullshit, man. It's Craig having these garbage ideas that end up roasting me, and that was a bit of an awkward skit, but we had to do something. Programming was there, so had to do something.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, that or the Professor Ken one. I don't know. With
oh man, I wish I was there for that. I think I was out of town during that, but that was hilarious. That guy's really funny. He just showed up out of nowhere. Apparently, he just didn't tell.
Oh, really?
He just walked into Combat 360 one day and just
wow.
Did he ride a horse down the street to get there? Is what I'm curious about.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, very likely. There's literally horses in traffic in Puerto Rico. It's very, very cool.
Holy shit! Yeah, I was going to ask you if that was like set up, or he just like walked. I can't believe he just showed up one day. That's hysterical.
Just showed up. I mean, I wasn't there to see it, but according to them, he just walked in. Yeah.
And I know we're short for time, but can you give us a couple minute like rundown of specifically your starting jiu-jitsu and then what it was like then versus, okay, getting on and discovering Danaher and DDS and what that training did for you and so on.
Yeah. Okay. So I started about 8 years ago up here in Montreal in TriStar. I started competing immediately, like within a month of training. I jumped in. There was like a lot of tournaments up here in Montreal back then, and in Montreal and neighboring cities, a lot of jiu-jitsu up here. There was, at least not now there was, but there was back then. And I was competing immediately. I was like doing well up here in the scene. And then Eddie Cummings came up here. Firas brought Eddie Cummings up here for a seminar. And he just mopped the floor with me. It was I've never trained with a guy of his caliber before. I started training with Eddie while he was up here, and it was insane. It was just like, I've never felt that before. He'd like any limb I would give to the guy, he just like ripped it off my body. So that was really cool. It was really eye-opening to see. So then he went, and then later on, Gordon came up. Tom Breeze brought him up for a seminar, I think, or for training. And then Gordon was another guy like that, just insanely good, so far ahead of anything I've seen up at TriStar. And eventually we started going down, and we started training with those guys back and forth. Like George St. Pierre originally had that connection with, George and Firas would go down there. So we started following suit. We started going in that direction and learning from John, then coming up. New York's like an expensive place to go to, so we would go as long as we could, then come up and recoup, compete, and then eventually started going down back and forth more often. Started training more and more with those guys. As soon as I really got there, they were like, you should come more often. You should, why do you have to leave? All this stuff. So that was really cool. They were really cool. Like as soon as I got there, they were like, you gotta come here more often, all that stuff. So I would try and stay more. I would try and go more often. I would try and stay for longer periods of time. Eventually I started staying with Nikki in New Jersey for like months. I would just stay and do like training camps there for trials or for big tournaments or big matches. And that's pretty much it. Then COVID hit one day and I started staying there like permanently. I moved into Gordon's house in Jersey, like pretty much permanently for like 6 months, I think. Then 6 or 8 months. And then we moved to Puerto Rico. That was like an insane process. And then moved around all over Puerto Rico. It's been like the past like year of my life has just been moving from place to place to place. It's been kind of like a disaster for my perspective, like my sort of organization and routine. It's been a complete disaster, but it is what it is. It's been kind of dragged all over the place. And hopefully we're finally settling into Austin and that'll be it. But we'll see. Never know.
And it just seems like Austin is literally becoming like the home of jiu-jitsu right now. Like, it's crazy.
It's definitely the center of jiu-jitsu right now, as far as it's either Texas and California really that are like the hubs of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. And then, you said like, Flow is there. You got WNO is one of the biggest shows right now.
It's that and ADCC. Those are the two big ones.
Yeah. And speaking of those, what do you think as far as that? Like, you got WNO, you got ADCC. You still have IBJJF, but I kind of feel like, it's not as prevalent anymore as far as like right. I don't know. I think
the big ones matter, like, gi worlds and no gi worlds, pans matter, no gi pans and gi pans matter. But like, just maybe I'm just out of the loop because like I'm completely immersed in the no-gi circuits. But I don't know. It seems like no one really cares about it as relative to how much they used to care about it. There's just so much other, like you can't compete with Flow Grappling's who's number one. You can't compete with ADCC with the shows they put on, the marketing that's behind it. There's just clearly way more money in it. There's more spectators and it's just more entertaining overall. Like there's just more people involved in it. There's more money involved in it.
It's an interesting point. I wonder if some of those like more regional things, right? Whatever, like, they'd have like the IBJFF, they would have regional sort of tournaments, right? They'd have whatever, the New York Open, the whatever Open. I wonder if we're going to see those start dissipating, right? And it may become even more micro level.
Yeah. Wait, sorry. Which tournament specifically?
So like the New York Open, like the sort of like, you know how sometimes they just have the Opens, not the Pans or the Worlds, like they sort of have like these regionals.
Much more obscure. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Again, just not talking shit about those tournaments. It's just from my perspective, like you hear about them less and less, and it just seems like there's a lot less orbiting those tournaments, especially when you compare them to who's number one events and anything ADCC related, and even the sub only ones, like the small sub only ones. Maybe it's just the Instagram that I'm involved in, like the accounts I follow that follow me. But yeah, it just seems like they're more entertaining and they're more marketed. They're more marketable and they're more pumped up.
Yeah, I mean, I think for years, all we saw from IBJJF was reasoning why, heel hooks weren't allowed and so on and so forth. Yeah. And they were so adamant about that and very vocal about that. And I think the writing is on the wall when they let it all of a sudden become legal. And I think that was purely because they were losing business.
There's probably a lot of pressure on them to do something, to change something. It got them a lot of press, and it, as a competitor, it made me more inclined to do those tournaments, because that rule was just ridiculous. Like it's just so obscure. It's so vague if a guy forces you in a reap, who gets disqualified? It's just like a ridiculous rule. So
we just saw that at the last big. I saw a lot at the Pans, a lot of really weird DQs going on.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I personally think just let anyone reap. It's not like. It's not insanely dangerous. It's not like jumping guard is way more dangerous, and you're allowed to do that. Reaping is not.
Right.
It's not going to like immediately explode someone's knee. And if you can't tolerate a reap, like if your knee is that bad, then you shouldn't be competing. It's not like
I mean, another point we're talking about here is gi versus no gi, right? I mean, no gi, there's a lot more excitement. There's a lot more action that goes on during a no gi fight. Not that some gi fights are very entertaining, don't get me wrong, but a lot of no gi, it's constant action, it's always moving.
Much more movement. There's less handles for you to stop the movement. So it's,
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, obviously, all four of you guys at BTeam, I mean, there's not going to be any gi at BTeam. Is that correct?
Yeah, I doubt it. I think it's going to be submission grappling and wrestling, and that's going to be it. It's going to be a pure no gi gym with that sole focus. There's no gi is just going to slow down. Like if you're gonna cross train, do wrestling. Don't cross train in the gi for us at least.
Right.
Yeah, I mean.
Makes sense. Yeah.
It seems to me, I mean, especially when we saw John was on at the Joe Rogan podcast, and he was talking about, the things in jiu-jitsu that he saw was lacking over the years, one of them being leg locks, and then he obviously attacked that in an amazing way. And then he was talking about, the fact that obviously takedowns, which, you guys are getting an awesome at. But I think the last, now, not missing piece, but little piece is that even in MMA, you're trying to hold the guy down. And if he wants to get up, he just screwed your whole, usually in jiu-jitsu, there's this gentleman's agreement. Oh, one guy's on bottom, one guy's on top, But I think John's point is that there's a skill specifically to take somebody down, but hold them down.
Yeah.
Control.
Absolutely. So it's like if you look at MMA fights, let's say a guy scores a beautiful takedown and he has no ability to keep the guy down, then first of all, that's a credit to the bottom guy for having a good propensity to get up. However, he does it. If he enters the legs off, bounces the guy and stands up. If he just hit pice and gets up, exposes his back and gets up without getting his back taken, that's a skill. And there's a counter to that, to hold the guy down, to keep his shoulders or hips on the mat. And if he freaks out, overcommits to getting up, you can take his back as he does that. So there's those two. It's basically ADCC. Like if you look at how points are scored, it's so rare that you score a clean takedown. Like it's more often than not, you threaten a takedown, like you shoot, you get the guy's ass to the mat, but you have to put it there for 3 seconds. It's a very long time. So it's more likely the guy post turtles and then you come up and he comes up and you take his back. That's more often the way you'll score in ADCC. So it's that's where that skill comes into play, holding a guy down and capitalizing as he gets up, either by taking him back or continuing to hold him down.
Yeah, and that's that's wrestling, right? Think about it. Wrestling is control, pressure, keeping them on their back, keeping them in position for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Like that's where a lot of
keeping them down on the mat, keeping them controlled, mat returning as they get back up, keeping their knees on the mat, exposing their back to the mat. That's huge. If you could keep a guy's back exposed to the mat, you're not going to stand up. You have to you have to face the mat at some point to be able to stand up. So if you could keep him facing the ceiling, you're likely going to keep him from getting up. Yeah, so that's good in terms of wrestling.
Yeah, I mean I think that's like the next kind of like phase of people adding to their jiu-jitsu. But I see for sure that the no-gi, the sub only, submission grappling specifically. I mean, if anything, that's probably what's going to get into the Olympics, not Brazilian jiu-jitsu for more reasons than one. But that's more likely. I think that's where the sport is going. We got to unify in that way. I mean, and look, a lot of schools now, including BTeam, it's predominantly going to be all no-gi.
Going to be no-gi, yeah. That's going to be it. That's the direction the sport's heading. That's it. Yeah, for sure.
What's going on with you now? So you've had some matches. You're up north now. What's the deal?
So I'm dealing with like a crazy injury right now. Apparently, for the past, I got an MRI up here like last week. Apparently, for the last 3 years, I've had no ACL and some pretty bad tears in my meniscus in my left knee. So yeah, I've just been I knew I was kind of injured, but it didn't seem like bad enough to really get it.
Your body triangle seemed pretty tight on me, my friend.
Yeah, hey, I had no ACL during those body triangles, man. I was training on it, competing on it. Like it would get sore every now and then. I'd just take a few days off and get back to it. But apparently no ACL and some pretty bad tears in my meniscus that sort of healed and then retore and healed and retore. So I've been juggling that for 3 years now. So I was warming up back in Texas in the BTeam, and something sort of shifted in my knee. It immediately hurt a lot. So came up here, MRI, and they're like, yeah, you need like a pretty serious, I'm going to have to get into the details, a quad tendon graft to replace my ACL. So it's a crazy one. Yeah. And I'm trying to do it as fast as possible to make, as much room for competing before ADCC and competing at ADCC, let alone. So yeah, that sucks. But it's been 3 years now that I've been like very less athletic on my left leg, at least. So it kind of sucks, but it's good to get it fixed.
Yeah, that's the problem with us, all us jiu-jitsu people, right? We get injuries and we're like, I got to keep training, and sometimes we don't get it looked at right away.
Yeah, it's a balance.
We're always hurt.
Yeah, we're always hurt, and sometimes it's not that bad that it merits being looked at. Like sometimes you just, take a few days off and you'll be fine. Sometimes it's something serious and you don't know. And yeah, I was in Puerto Rico for the last like 6 months or last 8 months when it was like sort of more apparent, more starting to bother me. But to get an MRI in Puerto Rico is virtually impossible. So I just sort of ignored it and hope for the best. And
man, we'll definitely
get a driver's license. Imagine getting an MRI.
Anything. You could just train. Combat 360 was my favorite place to be because it's the only thing we can actually do reliably. We could go in there, train, leave, and that's it. Other than that, forget it. You're chilling on the beach or that's it. There's nothing else.
Well, we had one, actually, I got a message on Instagram for a question for you. We kind of touched on it a little bit, but when you guys initially heard that IBJJF was allowing heel hooks, was DDS all about jumping in there and grabbing that? Or was it kind of like IBJJF's like a forethought now, not even,
No, definitely. Me personally, I speak for myself. Like I heard that and I'm like, oh, I'm absolutely more inclined to start doing any like opens if they're accessible to me, if they're close, if they make sense timing wise. Worlds for sure. I was signed up for Worlds, definitely going to do that. And I was going to do that whether they allowed heel hooks or not. Worlds, I'm not like past doing Worlds. I still consider that great experience. And there's tough guys in there, and it's not like a sure thing that I'm going to win. So it's not a sure thing anyone's going to win. So it's definitely a challenge that I respect and I would have done if I wasn't crippled up here in Montreal. So yeah.
Man, nice. Anything else, Brian? I'm going to have give a couple shout outs here for Ethan to get his all his socials out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So what do you got, Ethan? You got your personal Instagram right now. You have all the BTeam stuff. Why don't you throw everything out there for people to follow you?
Man, go apply if you want to train for the B team. It's not a very scrutinous application process. You just send in your stuff and you're much more than likely just going to be able to train. Roll Forever, Jiu-Jitsu, Level Black, Jiu-Jitsu Motivation, all you guys appreciate the support. That's it, man. Good to be on here.
Awesome, man. Well, we look forward to seeing you back out, man. We hope you get that ACL fixed and
get better soon, man.
Yeah, it's a big one, but yeah, it's gonna suck.
All right, guys, make sure you guys like and share and follow. Make sure you guys sign up for the newsletter. We got a lot more coming. Be sure to look out for the Review My Role on the jiujitsumotivation.com site. We got a lot of content coming. All right, any questions for Ethan, let us know. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Cool.